Messi insulted the waiter in a luxury restaurant. Keanu Reeves put Messi in his place. What happens when a global football icon disrespects a simple waiter in an upscale restaurant? And how does Hollywood's most humble star step in to teach him a lesson? This story will change the way you see fame, power, and true respect. Stay with us until the end because what happened that night is something you won't forget. Like and subscribe, because some lessons should never be ignored. Location: the Golden Palm, an exclusive luxury restaurant in Los Angeles. The air inside the Golden Palm was thick with the scent of truffle-infused steak and aged wine. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over the room, illuminating tables filled with Hollywood elites, tech billionaires, and international sports legends. At one of those tables, Lionel Messi leaned back in his seat, a glass of premium French wine swirling in his hand. He was dressed in an impeccable designer suit, the soft fabric tailored perfectly to his frame. Across from him sat a group of businessmen, sponsors, and fellow athletes. Laughter and chatter filled the space around them, but Messi's focus was elsewhere. A young waiter, no older than 22, approached cautiously. His name tag read James. He had been working at the Golden Palm for only 3 months, and serving VIP guests was both an honor and a terrifying challenge. He adjusted his bow tie, took a deep breath, and placed Messi's drink on the table. But then it happened. The glass wobbled for just a fraction of a second, and a single drop of wine splashed onto the pristine white tablecloth. Messi's gaze snapped downward. The conversation at the table halted. The laughter faded. James's stomach tightened. Messi slowly lifted his head, his face cold as ice. "Are you serious?" Messi's voice cut through the silence. James swallowed hard. I'm terribly sorry, sir. Let me get you a fresh napkin." Messi waved a dismissive hand. "Forget the napkin. Just tell me, how does someone as incompetent as you get a job in a place like this?" The words hit like a punch. James felt his ears burn, his hands clenching into fists behind his back. Messi turned to his table, shaking his head with a smirk. "I swear, finding good service these days is impossible. Maybe they just let anyone work." "Here now." His friends chuckled. James bit his lip. He wanted to say something, but what could he do? Messi wasn't just a footballer. He was a global icon, a legend, and James, just a kid with a name tag and a tray. He nodded quickly. "Of course, sir. It won't happen again." But just as he turned to leave, a new voice pierced. "Hey, kid." James froze, not because of the words, but because of who said them. At a nearby table, a man pushed back his chair. Dressed in a simple black blazer and dark jeans, he looked completely out of place among the extravagant suits and designer dresses. But everyone recognized him immediately. It was Keanu Reeves. The room shifted. Conversations stopped. Even the waiters paused mid-step. Keanu leaned forward, looking straight at James. "You okay?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. James hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, sir, I'm fine." Keanu's gaze lifted to Messi, and his next words hit like a thunderbolt. "Because I think the only person here who should be embarrassed isn't the waiter." The restaurant fell into complete silence. Messi's smirk faltered. Keanu stood up, sliding his hands into his pockets as he slowly approached Messi's table. He tensioned. "You know, Messi," Keanu continued, his tone eerily calm but sharp as a blade. "You've played in front of millions. You've won trophies most people can only dream of. And yet, you think embarrassing a young kid makes you powerful?" Messi's jaw tightened. His friends shifted uncomfortably, glancing at each other. Keanu took another step forward. "Power isn't in how you treat those above you, Messi." He glanced at James. "It's in how you treat those who have nothing to offer you." James's eyes widened. Messi clenched his fists, his pride battling his ego. The restaurant held its breath. Then, finally, Messi scoffed. "Keanu, you don't know what you're talking about." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a stack of bills, and tossed it onto the table. "Here, for the poor waiter. Happy now?" Keanu sighed. He bent down, picked up the money, and handed it straight back to Messi. "Money isn't what he needs, Messi." Keanu then turned to James. "What's your dream, kid?" James hesitated. I want to open my own restaurant someday." Keanu smiled. "Good, because real success isn't about where you start, it's about where you end up. And people like Messi, they might have talent, but talent without humility is just wasted potential." James felt his heart swell. Messi, for the first time that night, he had nothing to say. Location: the Golden Palm. The atmosphere grows heavy. The weight of Keanu's words hung in the air like an unshakable silence. No one dared to speak. The once buzzing luxury restaurant now felt like a courtroom, and Messi, one of the greatest footballers of all time, stood at its center, stripped of the aura of invincibility he usually carried. His fingers curled slightly at his side. His jaw clenched so tight it could crack stone. His mind raced, but no comeback seemed fitting. He wasn't on the pitch anymore. There were no referees, no fans chanting his name. Here, under the piercing gaze of Keanu Reeves, he was just a man. Messi looked around. The faces staring back at him weren't those of adoring fans or sponsors. They were businessmen, actors, waiters, ordinary people who had just witnessed something extraordinary. For the first time in a long time, Lionel Messi felt small. Across from him, Keanu stood calm but firm, his hands still casually in his pockets, his face holding an almost serene patience. He didn't smirk. He didn't gloat. He simply waited. And that was worse than any lecture. The tension grows. The sound of a fork clinking against a plate somewhere in the distance cut through the silence. Someone coughed awkwardly. The waiters, usually floating around, effortlessly like ghosts in the background, stood frozen, wide-eyed, waiting to see what would happen next. James, the young waiter Messi had humiliated, stood as still as a statue, his fingers nervously twisting the hem of his apron. He had never seen someone stand up to power like this before. Messi's pride screamed at him to retaliate, to say something, anything, but Keanu's words had already hit their target, and so Messi did the only thing he could. He turned around. Without another word, without another glance, he stepped away from the table. His polished leather shoes echoed on the restaurant's marble floor as he made his way toward the exit. The entire room watched. No one stopped him. No one clapped. They just let him go. Because everyone knew. He wasn't leaving as a winner. He was leaving as a man who had just been humbled. Outside the restaurant, the final lookas. Messi pushed through the glass doors and stepped onto the dimly lit sidewalk. The cool night air hit his face. For a moment, he just stood there. He inhaled deeply, his breath shaky, not from anger but from something worse. Embarrassment. Shame. He had faced the toughest defenders in the world. He had played under the brightest lights. But this was different, and as he slowly turned his head, through the restaurant's tall windows, he saw Keanu, still standing, still watching, and beside him, James, the young waiter Messi had mocked, now standing taller than ever before. Messi's chest tightened. For the first time, he understood. This wasn't just about a spilled drink. This was about who you are when no one is watching. And tonight, he had been watched by everyone, and worse, by himself. Fame is temporary, money fades, but respect, that's something no amount of goals, trophies, or contracts can buy. Tonight, Messi learned a lesson, and the world was there to see it. Like and subscribe, because true power, it's in humility.